about, because it's been brought up off and on, that maybe it's time for the federal government to get out of the land business. And part of the proposal introduced by Utah Senator Mike Lee introduced legislation as part of this bill that would authorize the federal government to sell more than 2 million acres of public land across the western United States.
Oh crap.
Including portions in Idaho. Because Idaho has one of the most acres of public lands owned by the federal government. While Lee's proposal would allow the sale of federal lands to states and other entities through a nomination process, it excludes national parks, monuments, and designated wildlife areas. Wednesday of last week, Lee explained his rationale for the land sales. Says we're opening the underused federal land to expand housing, support local development, and get Washington, D.C. out of the way for communities that are just trying to grow. We're talking about isolated parcels that are difficult to manage, that are better suited for housing and infrastructure to our hunters, anglers, and sportsmen. You will not lose access to the lands you love, unquote.
Yeah, right.
Washington, he goes on, has
just like when the Texans moved in.
Manage this land. This bill puts it in better hands. Justin Hayes, Idaho Conservation League Executive Director, said this is really a bad proposal, as this particular version is to raise money for tax cuts for the wealthy, he said. I think it's really important that Idahoans recognize how serious this threat is. Once these lands are sold, they're going to be gone for us forever. Gates will go up, no trespassing, signs will go up. You and your family won't be able to recreate where you've always been able to go. Idaho's congressional delegation is taking varying positions on public land sales. In the past, Representative Mike Simpson's worked on a plan to strip the land sale provision from this current House bill, recently expressed concern about the state's ability to manage transferred federal lands. The state saying here, this is his quote, the state would end up selling off some of those public lands in order to maintain the revenue that they would have had. That means that they would be selling off parcels of land that give us the access to those public lands. We have a responsibility to make sure that future generations can enjoy these lands the way we have, and that's why we maintain them, unquote. So over this last portions of our show this morning, we want you to weigh in on your thoughts of the federal government selling off portions of public land. Is it time for the federal government to get out of the land ownership business?
No.
Do you like the proposal, or is this a horrible idea? And like, most of the people I think are afraid of what happened, and I'll specifically mention it because it's something that came up on our show a number of times with the Wilkes brothers out of Texas.
Exactly.
Now, they did not buy public land, so just that you're aware of, they already bought private land that was already previously owned. However, when they bought that private land, previous owners had allowed people access easements to get through that private property to get to public lands that were owned by the federal government, to be able to go hunting, to be able to go fishing, to take your four-wheelers or motorcycles, horseback, and visit those areas. And when they were taken over in specific instances, like I said, by the Wilkes brothers, a lot of times they put up gates, locked gates, no trespassing signs. Mm-hmm. You were no longer allowed to use that public land that you had been using for generations and decades to get to the public land that you, as a American citizen, are part owner of.
Then you know what always happens. Somebody ends up messing.
For any of y'all that I played that little bit, that was AM talk radio, and played that little bit of where that is. Talk radio about selling off the federal lands, Idaho federal lands. That's a bunch of crap. You know, how long is that going to pay off anything? Just the way that these feds and politicians go through the money and all the stupid stuff they do with the money. How long is that really going to pay anything off? And then we're going to have nothing. Crazy pipe. So anyway, man, if you're in Idaho, or I guess they're talking about Utah or something too, but that I've already wrote my legislators and everything, and there's actually a link, if I remember to put it in the description below, there's a link to send a thing that, you know, let them know. Bullcrap. You know. No. That's all I got to say. No. Good Lord willing, them creeks don't rise. We'll be back in tomorrow. See ya.